It is August 5th, 2020. We're here outside the house at 1039 Santa Barbara Street in San Diego, California, 92107. We walked the perimeter of the property and we can see that the alley is where the sewer heads to. We're here on this side of the house, would be the west side of the house, and this is the only clean out we can see. This is actually just on the other side of this is a bedroom, so not sure what this 2-inch pipe access point was doing here, but you can see we just got a little bit of hard debris in there. We're going to see this is headed straight towards the hall bathrooms, so we assume this is going to tie in, and it doesn't. This is just going into the crawl space. So this, as you can see, we're now actually just dumping into the crawl space right there. That's just the dirt in the ground there. So this piping was put in at one point in time for something, but then maybe the remodel decisions were changed or relocated. I don't know. We have 4 bathrooms in the house, but on the other crawl spaces on the other side of the house, no clean out was installed. We have a tile roof, so we're not really sure if we can go through the roof vents there without cracking any tiles. And again, we found no other clean outs on the perimeter of the house or headed by the alleyway where the sewer line's headed. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video and double check and see if there's some other access point or a way that we can get on the roof. Okay, so we moved over to here outside the kitchen window, and we do have an original 1.5-inch clean out access point. You can see it kind of chokes down the original cast iron. We don't know again if we're going to be able to get all the way through. If this is original cast iron throughout, we may not get through. Looks like they're changed to some plastic right here, so that's some good news. So we do have new plastic for the kitchen here. So this may allow us to get through. Now we may get some food and grease on the front of the camera lens here and trying to go through a kitchen, but so far we're staying pretty clear and open. There's a little bit now. It's going to get in front of the lens. There we go. Washed off there. Still in a 2-inch pipe. It is plastic. We have a T-junction right there. So it's possible that all the bathrooms are newer plastic. We did see again that the last bathroom on the house on the other side had plastic from the crawl space that we could see. There was cast iron directly under the toilet and for the venting to the rooftop, but part of it was replaced, but no clean out installed. So here we have a turn on the line, a little bit of debris in our camera lens, getting it washed off here. Another turn. Still all plastic pipes, so it does look like they probably replaced all of this. We still have some debris on the front of our lens, but we'll see if this gets washed off temporarily. Not look like it. We're going to go ahead and pause for a second, flush the toilets to get this kind of cleaned up. Okay, so you can see the water running by. We flushed both toilets that are into the middle back of the house. And so we'll continue to push down this 4-inch ABS plastic pipe. Okay, we've got some standing water right here. So we'll let this kind of subside for a second. We want to make sure. So it's possible that there's a sag in the line, which is an area that's holding water constantly, and then also sewage and debris not draining out properly. Alright, so that water stopped coming by, so now we're going to push back into this, and it does look like it's holding water. Now, it could be some debris at the front of it that's damming up the water, or it could be that the pipe was laid, unfortunately, improperly out of code. Of course, all drain and sewer pipes have to have downhill slope, and the grade has to be 1/4 inch of fall for every foot it travels. So you cannot have standing water like this. Obviously, it's out of code and makes it non-functional and can cause the stoppages in the line as things won't drain out properly. Okay, so there's the transition to cast iron. So we can see that that plastic that was put in improperly right here is partially due to a misalignment right here. So got a little bit of floaties there in the water, but we can actually see the bottom lip of the cast iron pipe. We're actually looking at the wall of the pipe, and then cast iron gets some buildup and scale and deposits on it, and those need to be cleaned off so that you basically have the same inside diameter. But it does appear that the alignment of the cast is slightly off, and that's going to make enough of a difference. But it's also just the pipe itself. Could be the way it was installed, and they didn't check that it was flat when they were putting it in. A lot of the pipe, as soon as it gets taken off the rack, it's a little bit of bow to it, and that needs to be checked before installing. And then of course the pipe needs to be supported after it's installed so that it actually doesn't soften and get a sag to it by dropping down. So we have a T-junction right there, as you can see. I don't know if that's where the laundry ties in or if it's the other bathroom even possibly. We'll have to we'll locate this, but we're basically coming up to that. We're starting at right about 55.5 feet is where we're completely clear here. And then as we come up to this at 56 feet, we've already got a little bit of standing water. And then we'll push through these several feet here. And here's the cast iron transition right here. So we're gently pushing our camera at it, and we're kind of hitting the wall of the pipe. So it definitely needs to be pulled up and redone slightly. It's not bad, but as you can see, the pipe is all holding water. So we're right at about 60.5 feet, so we're about a 5-foot span of pipe. We'll pull back and locate this, but we're going to push forward right now and go through all the original cast iron here on the line. So it is completely intact. It's always going to have a little bit of rough, scaly texture to it, and that's again just normal with cast iron. It's a steel pipe. You're going to get buildup and scale and deposits forming on it, and they harden up. But overall, we're not finding any cracks or breaks. The buildup isn't too heavy, and we've found no root intrusions. Little pocket of water being held here, and again that's mostly just from this debris that's built up on the pipe itself that's damming in this little areas of water here. You can see the mound to the left hand side, so that's what kind of does that on old pipe like this. Little mounds here and there. Sometimes that can be cleaned up with hydrojetting, but there's no clean outs or access points that we found, so no hydrojetter can get their large bits on the end to scrape and clean this up. Like little cobwebs there, there's no roots or anything. Again, a little bit of debris that's scaled up on the line, but it's nothing too heavy. The line is completely functional, and I believe it's still occupied, and so since we're not seeing any feces or toilet paper clogged up inside the pipe, we know that everything is moving down the system cleanly. A little bit of paper snagged right there, and we can see a little bit of roots on the right hand side, so you can see some very small fine roots right there growing along the edges of the pipe there, not really growing in heavily, but they're inside the piping right here. So you can see them on this right hand side here, so nothing too severe. but this will need to be maintained possibly over time, but it's also a sign that it's the end of the life of the cast iron, because the cast iron is essentially having a small crack or a break in the wall of the pipe that's allowing these roots to grow in. So we'll continue down the line, then we'll pull back to locate and mark that out as well. Okay, so you can see a lot more roots right here now that are encasing the walls of the pipe here. So this cast iron here is definitely at the end of its lifespan and failure, and it's going to need to be repaired. Okay, so it does look like we have a plastic transition here, so we'll have to see where this is at. We did not see any cleanouts, but maybe they're under a trash can or buried under some landscaping that we didn't notice when we walked the perimeter of the property. But again, some heavy roots right here. We do have some plastic, and typically the city and their contractors don't use ABS plastic, but it's possible because we seem to be getting pretty close to the alleyway. Usually they use Greenbelt PVC pipe, and when they get rid of the clay. Here's our transition, and there's a misaligned pipe here. So you can see right here, we're seeing the actual thickness of the pipe, the wall. So it's slightly misaligned right here. The good news is it's not a big area of concern because we're going from a plastic pipe to another. And right now we're sitting down at about a 45-degree angle. So we actually have a very steep decline on the pipe. This is not a horizontal pipe. This is a vertical pipe, again at 45 degrees. And so the little misalignment there from the rubber boot that connects the two pieces of pipe, it's not going to be an issue long term, but it's just slightly off. Now we're in the Greenbelt PVC pipes. Now you can see the green color pipe and then the white glue fittings they use in between. Now here we've got back to clay, appears to be the white PVC, and there's a massive heavy root intrusion right here as well. We're still going down at a 45-degree angle, so you can see this is very thick and heavy roots right here. So it got into this hub connection that appears to have been redone. So it was some poor work by the city or their contractors. Very thick and heavy there. So we're still going down at about a 45-degree angle. So where we're at right here, our camera, a transmitter beacon to locate the pipe and where it is and how deep it is, has to be at a more of a horizontal level. We can't really get them initially located. So this intrusion here, which we can't even get by, because then there's another little turn after this. This is very thick, as you can see, very, very bad. So this is going to have to be maintained because it's probably in the alleyway where it's not diggable. We're going to take a quick snapshot photo of this. We're now going to go ahead and pull back across here, and we're going to get out of this vertical pipe that we're in right here. So you can see it's how the camera's kind of bouncing around. And here's that turn. So now we're back to the horizontal pipe itself. We're going to go ahead and pull back and pause the video here and locate to see where we're at. Again, we have all these roots here as well. We'll see if happens to be a clean out here, but we'll also just more importantly find out where this is at on the property to determine what has to be dug up if there are no clean outs to help maintain and repair these lines. Okay, so we've located this piece of the pipe here that is black ABS plastic, and this is in the alleyway. It's about 2 feet 8 inches deep, so it's about 32 inches deep, and not in a diggable area because, again, it's actually in the alleyway, city property. Now here we have a hub where the pipe is being glued and transitioned across. Those roots that are growing in the line right there are in the ABS plastic, but they're growing along the pipe downstream, so they're actually intruding from up farther back here. So you can see right here as we back up, this is original clay concrete pipe right here, and this is where they're growing in from. So As we push back forward again, this is the edge right here where those roots are, but this is actually still plastic pipe right there. And as we back up in the line right here, there's our cast iron right there. So as we go forward here again, unless it's just due to discoloration, it looks like a small piece of clay concrete pipe right here. But the roots are all intruding at this point right here, and the cast iron has definitely gone bad when we've gone farther back. So we're going to pull back a little bit more on the line right here. We saw them growing in the pipes right here where this debris was. I'm going to pull back just a little bit more here. So now we know we're getting close to the garage area, but we want to double check this one more time. Okay, so we're going to push back forward again. So overall, again, we're double checking, not seeing anything there that has to be repaired yet. Although when you dig down to old cast iron like this, you never know how well it's going to handle the cutting process and being reconnected into. The inside here is intact, but that doesn't mean that once you dig down to it and then have to cut it, it's going to survive that process of then being reconnected again. But we're going to push forward here again. It's a little bit of mounds and debris. Here's where we've got these initial roots that we saw the first time right here. So this spot right here is where definitely the beginning of the repair is going to need to be done at. We've got the roots growing in, those little fine ones on the walls of the pipe right there on the right side, and some darker ones, stringy little tiny ones on the left hand side of the pipe too. So we're going to pull back right here. We're going to pause and locate this. Okay, so we've located the sewer pipe here, which again is right in front of these roots where they're starting to get in for the pipe is failing. The pipe is 28 inches deep, so it's about 2 feet 4 inches deep. This is about 4 feet off the alleyway, so before you come up to the alleyway, there's the concrete right in front of the driveway before the garage entry, and then there's some kind of concrete stone area, and that's where this is under. So we've got it marked with some green chalk, and we'll eventually pull our camera over to that and show that. So again, you may have to go further back here to get this repaired, and as we pull back, because it's all under all the concrete under the garage and in front of the garage right here, there's no guarantee. If it becomes very complicated, the pipe is so fragile and keeps breaking, then typically once it's dug up and you get to that point, unless they want to dig up the whole thing and pour all new concrete, we would normally do a spray coat or a pull-through liner to replace the last bit of that. Now it's a little bit expensive, but actually the amount of digging and concrete cutting and work and removal that has to be done might balance themselves out, where either one's are kind of a wash as far as that, if it has to be done. So we're not guaranteeing that the cast iron is going to have to be all replaced. We just don't know, since until it's dug up, and because we know that we've got already that failure up here, we don't know how far you're going to have to go back. So we're going to push back forward again one more time here to this 95-foot mark where we were at here from the kitchen clean out, showing the beginning of these roots. Right where that little white debris is hanging off the top of the pipe, it's kind of snagged on some small roots. So from right there, and as we push forward, it's only a few more feet, and then we go to this transitionary pipe right here. Again, from the video, it's kind of hard to tell, but it doesn't look like it's the black, smooth ABS. It looks to be the grayish concrete clay pipe that was used, and typically they would not replace that, so it makes sense that could be a small section of that. So we push forward here. You can see all these roots going in, and then right here to this end piece right here, which definitely is ABS plastic right there. You can see the obvious change in the tone and color of the pipe and reflective material. So we're going to go ahead and push forward right here and assume that this is definitely going to be the spot that will have to be undermined or at least dug up to, probably to eradicate this old pipe up to this section. And then cleanouts will need to be installed when that cast iron is repaired here in this driveway before the alleyway, so that the roots and the plastic can be maintained. Now the city, even though they replaced this pipe, or their contractors did at some point in time, it's unlikely, even if we or any other licensed plumber files what's called a plumber's report with the city, that they would do anything about this, even though they did a repair and it was obviously not a quality repair and now roots are growing in it. It's the homeowner's responsibility, unfortunately, to maintain their sewer main all the way out to the city T-junction. And basically, they will probably not come back out and re-repair this work that somebody installed at one point in time. So it's just going to have to be maintained. And again, this alleyway where those roots are, it's the vertical drop. It's really close to the middle where there's a manhole. So it's not a far run past that root that we can't get by to the very end of the line. But the roots are so heavy, it's going to need cleaning very, very soon, so it doesn't lead to a stoppage. So again, here's our definite transition. So we're going to go ahead and pause right here and double check this location one more time. Okay, so we have double checked, and this transition right here to black plastic ABS is about 20 inches into the alleyway right here where we're sitting. And as we slowly back up, you can see there's a coupling right there. So the change in the look of the pipe does appear that it's not plastic, but there could be some weird debris that's built up on it, and with all those roots, it could be plastic, but we do feel that this is clay concrete, looking at both the top and the bottom of the pipe on the camera here. So that's really going to need to be replaced, because that will continue to allow things to get in, being the old style pipe. And then again, there's our cast iron for sure. And then right here is where we located it, and we have this marked, and we'll move our camera eventually over to that spot. So as we come back up through this cast iron again here, we're going to go ahead and leave the camera right here in the system. We want to try to see if we can get up through the laundry roof vent and see if the T-junction that we saw that was holding water in the plastic ABS before it transitioned to cast iron is that laundry T-junction itself. Okay, so there's our ladder we just wanted to show. We went up onto the flat top part of the roof here across the garage to the back of the house, and there is no vent for the laundry. So we then went ahead and looked behind the machines in the laundry room, because it has a newer plastic ABS standpipe and trap, and when we pulled those out and looked in and then went into the crawl space, which is right behind there through an access, there is no vent. So the laundry drain is completely out of code. Everything has to have a vent. And the purpose of the vent, of course, is one, to allow sewer gas to escape, and it has to be above the rooftop level. And it also lets air into the line so that things drain out properly. So that's the two reasons you have to have a vent. So there is no vent for the laundry. We verified that by looking at the pipes in the crawl space behind the machine and on the rooftop. So we're now going to go ahead and pause, and we'll move over to the alleyway to show the markings. Okay, so we're now here in the alleyway outside the garages, and it's going to be kind of hard to see on the video initially here, but we have green chalk marks, which is the color we use to denote sewer pipes. So here is a green line right there. That is the path of the sewer pipe as it comes from the house, and it goes across here. And then right where you see 28, that's the depth, 28 inches, that's where the roots are intruding, and the cast iron is failing and needs to be repaired. We put a little R right here for the roots. You can see the line as it continues. And this is, again, about 4 feet in front of the alleyway from that line across under these little concrete blocks. And then into the alleyway where you see that T, the straight line is going across the path of the pipe, and the T on the line across there, we drew that to show where the ABS plastic is starting. So that's the little bit of 20 inches into the alleyway we mentioned, where you'd at least have to dig to replace all the older pipe, at least to that point. So the cast iron, again, being old and cracking and failing, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to dig right to here, about a foot or two inside this concrete pad. But it needs to be attempted, of course, because it needs to be repaired, and cleanouts need to be installed at this same spot. So when this line is repaired, the cleanouts will be installed here, and then the roots that are all the way out farther in the alleyway can then be completely cleaned out via chain knocker or hydrojetting. And then if the cast iron here, when the initial repair is done on the pipe and the cleanouts installed, if the cast iron continues to break and crack and crumble and fall apart during that process, then the rest of it's going to have to either be relined or a few more feet keep digging up to find good quality pipe. Typically, we'd try to dig a few more feet, and if it keeps failing foot by foot, we would stop at that point. And then because it's all under concrete the rest of the way underneath, all the way to the foundation of the house, it'd be cheaper just to reline it and less work. But either way, that's an expensive process. But again, we don't know if that's going to survive this initial process and be in good enough shape to tie into until it's initially dug down. The inside of the pipe can't tell us that. So here's these markings here again. And we're going to go ahead and pause and just move over to the laundry. Okay, so it's not going to show up extremely well on the video, but we just thought we'd show it. So here's the new plastic standpipe that was installed. And as we look over the edge here, you can see here's the new trap. And then this pipe goes across. We're going to try to maneuver our camera. May not maneuver really well because the machines are back in place, but here we go. So you can see there's the drain line for after the trap. It's called the trap arm, and that needs to lead to a T-junction and then immediately go up the wall to the rooftop for the vent. This is going directly into the crawl space, and then right at the next little fitting coming up, it makes a 45-degree turn and goes down and ties into the sewer in the crawl space, and we could see that. So unfortunately, this is out of code, as we mentioned. The wall will need to be completely opened up to the top header there, and then a vent line run up, and then if there's enough attic space, it could be run across to the toilet vent for the other bathroom. If not, it'll just continue straight up through the rooftop and a new flashing installed with the pipe then going to the top. So again, that air can get in and gases can get out. So that concludes the recording for this property.